South Africa celebrates yet another Youth Day, but unemployment among young people remains our biggest challenge. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa said at June 16 celebrations today that, and I quote, "If we could effectively address youth unemployment, not only would we lift millions of South Africans out of poverty, but we would also place our economy on a trajectory of sustainable, inclusive growth." One organization that does exactly this is MyStartUp SA. MyStartUp SA is a network where young entrepreneurs meet experts in different industries and are guided on how to grow their businesses. My guest today is the founder of the online platform for South African entrepreneurs, MyStartUpSA.com, and a businessman in his own right, Andile Khumalo. Andile Khumalo, welcome to the show. Why did you start this MyStartUp SA?
Honestly, it's because I received a lot of emails from a lot of young people always asking for mentorship and guidance and lots of other stuff. And I realized that at some point, I'm pretty sure that many other entrepreneurs get the same questions. And at some point, we've got to find a scalable way to deal with this. So I created this online site, and I created a social network on it. And essentially, you go and register for free. You put your name up, you put what your business does. And then from that, we started events. We started doing some live events, and we started a series called I Am an Entrepreneur, which is the part I think you're referring to in your intro, where we get a business leader in front of about 100 entrepreneurs to talk about, one, their journey, two, what they've learned, and three, any tips they will have for entrepreneurs. And I've just found that it's useful. It's the one thing that many entrepreneurs don't have, and that's the guidance.
You're an entrepreneur yourself, and you've started businesses. You continue to start businesses at quite an astonishing rate. and did you find that the problems that these young people face, did you face these problems yourself?
100% Justice. Mainly from the hand-holding, mainly from the guidance part. I mean, entrepreneurs by their very nature are going to hustle their way into and out of any situation. So I think that if you are an entrepreneur at heart, you always find a way. But it's kind of hard to find a way when you don't know where to start to get help. And a lot of us, particularly black young people, we don't come from a culture of entrepreneurship. We didn't have the benefit of those dinner conversations, or an uncle was in business, or an aunt, or a mother, or a father. Typically, our parents were employed, teachers, nurses, police people, whatever.
Is that a South African phenomenon? Because I travel to, say, Lagos, and I arrive in Lagos, and there are people trying to sell me stuff. And I meet, from the guy who's trying to sell me a cell phone to go into a boardroom, and there are amazing people who are really pushing and hustling, and they're doing amazing things, whether it's in technology or whatever, but they're doing amazing things. Do you think it's a lack in South Africa? Is that something?
I think we've got a unique element in South Africa because of the political history we have. All economies, all big economies are made up of small businesses. They are not made up of big conglomerates. The biggest employers are always going to be small businesses and entrepreneurs. So you're right, you go to Lagos, you're going to get hustled, but it's a culture. It's a culture that's been built over time amongst the people. In South Africa, there's a mindset that we just don't have, and that's the majority of us. We were brought up thinking you go to school, if you're lucky, you go to university. After that, you go and get a job, because that's what your parents did, and that's what their parents did, and that's how life works. So you're right, there's other countries where those kind of things were not quite taught that way. They learn to be traders, they learn to hustle. And for us, it's still relatively new, so we need more and more of what I guess we.
So if my young nephew now goes on and registers on your site and says, I'm 24 years old, I want to do this, and comes to one of your events, what do you tell them? What are your key messages to these young people?
There's a lot. Maybe I'll pick up on a few. I think there's a lot of misconceptions or certain untruths that unfortunately I think entrepreneurs have been taught. And it may have something to do with the fact that we got the political freedom. We really talked about jobs. I think every single government has tried to promise us jobs, which is a hell of a difficult, right?
Every talk show like this one.
They talk about jobs, right? And then also for entrepreneurship, they tell you got to write a business plan. You're going to go and borrow money. The reality is that it's not that way in the real world. Just because you have a business plan doesn't mean you're going to get money. I think the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs face right now is that seed capital. We just don't have enough institutions that have got risk money that will give your cousin 100,000 rand to try something and be prepared to lose it because they see it might work.
So what should he do? He needs the 100,000.
First of all, I think the number one thing is you got to start now. I think a lot of potential entrepreneurs spend too much time procrastinating, planning, writing PowerPoint presentations, writing business plans. I think you just got to start. Just get on with it. It's amazing what you learn when you're already on that journey, as opposed to, oh no, I've got to wait for this big check. And
I've heard you speak about friends and family and how they can help that young kid. Tell me about that.
Well, globally, the biggest source of startup capital is friends and family. So you would typically have a child will say, Dad, I want to try this, and Dad will give them a loan. Or an uncle, a rich uncle, or whatever. So often entrepreneurs never think of family and say, let me ask my dad, he's got a job, he's got savings, and he's my dad, so he's not trying to see me starve, right? So friends and family can really be a source of that startup capital, because the reality is it's a risky capital. No bank is going to give you seed capital. Banks don't work that way. They work with secured lending, and if it's unsecured lending, they got to be really sure you can pay it back. And of course, they charge you the high interest rates for it. So the friends and family element is a really big, and it's a real source. Not too many people think about it.
Tell me about the environment in which we're trying to get young people and people generally to start these businesses. Do you think the environment in South Africa makes it easy for these young guys? The red tape. I see we now have a Ministry of Small Business. Will that help?
I hope so. I really do hope so. I think that it's unfortunate that it's taken us this long to really see what entrepreneurship can do for our social ills. It's a little bit unfortunate. I guess we thought that jobs were the answer. The reality is that economies don't grow from big corporates. Economies grow from new businesses. I mean, I was incidentally reading up on Discovery the other day, Adrian Gore, 1992, Justice. He started business in 1992. Thousands of employees now. You can't talk about healthcare and not talk about Discovery.
It's a global business.
It's a global business, 92. So is the environment enabling? I think so. I don't think that half the things we complain about, the red tapes, etc., are the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem is, one, a culture. We just don't have a culture of entrepreneurship. Not too many of us are taking the risks. And two, that startup capital. That let me try this money. There's not enough of that going around. And what typically happens is that, the people already have started, they just kind of keep going. The problem is that we can't just have one Andile. We need 100,000. We need 1 million of them, because not all of us are going to succeed, right?
What should they do when they want to be another Andile? Should they speak? Should they lend money? Should they find a structured way of doing it?
I think the first thing that an entrepreneur, we're talking day one, right? What should he do? I think the first thing is to invest in yourself. I don't think many of us do that enough. So attend the sessions like we have. We have a session, for example, this Saturday in Limpopo. Exactly the same thing. I'm an entrepreneur. We're bringing a youngster who started his own clothing brand called Heronjo. He's going to talk to youngsters in Limpopo. It's free. Young people just don't come. And there are many of these events and sessions that happen. Not too many people come, and therefore don't invest in themselves, and therefore put themselves forward and have an opportunity to say, hey, I can meet so-and-so, and they can help me take forward. So the first thing I would say is invest in yourself. And two, raising money. If you went to go and buy a couple of bananas for 10 bucks and you sold them for 15 bucks, you've just raised 5 bucks. So often this fundraising thing, we make it sound so academic. It's actually pretty practical. You want to raise money? Sell something. Go trade. Find a way that you can convert profit in cash. Then you've raised money.
One quick answer. A lot of the people who watch this show are the people we talk about, people who, that first generation who made it, have access to some money. What is their responsibility? What should they do for the young people that you're talking about?
Oh, it's huge, Justice. I mean, when you think about June 16, when you think about, the common enemy was the education system. And people could rally themselves up the way they did, in the time they did, and risk their lives and lose their lives. We are sitting here with a particular challenge in South Africa. And for me, I call it, we have too many people who've got nothing to lose. We have more and more people with something to lose, because the ones that typically care, they also have something to lose. So you're right. I think the big responsibility on all of us who have got that into that generation is to say, how do I serve this particular challenge we've got now?
Okay, what's the website again?
It is MyStartUpSA.com.
MyStartUpSA.com. Andile,
Thank you,
thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
After the break, our winners and losers of the week. Stay with us.
News that moves. ENCA.com.